Michael never expected his routine stop would change his life. The cop, offering a quick fix, pushed him to the edge. But just as things were about to explode, a woman appeared, her icy voice revealing a shocking truth. What happened next shocked everyone. But let's start from the beginning. It was a typical afternoon in downtown Atlanta, the kind where the city buzzes with life, but the air holds a certain calmness as the sun dips low. Michael, dressed in a sleek, tailored suit, cruised through the streets in his high-end sedan. He had just left an important meeting and was mentally running through the deals he'd secured. His mind, sharp as ever, was miles away from what was about to unfold. Without warning, the flashing lights of a patrol car broke the quiet. Michael glanced in the rearview mirror, his brow furrowing slightly. He had been driving smoothly, at a steady pace. Was he speeding? Doubtful. But when the officer signaled him to pull over, he complied without hesitation. It was just a routine stop, he assumed. As he lowered his window, a man in a police uniform leaned in. Officer Thompson's face was hard, his gaze unwavering. His eyes swept over Michael's car, lingering just a beat too long. There was something unsettling about his presence, a sense of calculation hidden beneath the professional facade. "Evening, sir," Thompson said, his tone clipped and cold. "I pulled you over for speeding. You were going a little too fast for this neighborhood." Michael blinked, processing the words. He wasn't speeding. He knew that. He glanced around, noticing the deserted street and the dimming light. There was no one in sight, no one to witness this exchange. Still, he played along. "Sorry, officer. I didn't realize I was going over the limit," Michael responded, his voice steady, masking the slight unease creeping in. Thompson's eyes narrowed, and a faint smirk tugged at the corner of his lips. "Well, I'll let you off with a warning, but it'll cost you." He shifted, his eyes scanning the area again, then leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "How much you got on you? Maybe we can settle this right now." Michael's heart sank. This wasn't a traffic violation. This was something much darker. The words hit him like a slap. Extortion. A cold rush of realization washed over him. His stomach clenched and his grip tightened on the steering wheel. It was no longer about the speed limit. It was about power, and now it was his turn to make a choice. Michael's heart raced, but he didn't let panic take hold. His mind sharpened as he stared at Officer Thompson, his pulse quickening with a mix of disbelief and growing fury. "What do you mean, settle?" he asked, his voice calm, though the anger simmering beneath was palpable. Thompson's smirk widened, a glint of superiority in his eyes. "Come on," he said with a dismissive wave. "I don't have time to write up a ticket. Just a little cash and you're free to go." Michael's stomach turned. He had seen corruption before, heard the whispers, seen the headlines. But this was brazen. Thompson wasn't even trying to hide it. The audacity to use his badge as a weapon, to extort money from a man he had no reason to pull over. It made Michael sick to his core. His mind raced through the options, none of them good. No one would care if he just paid. No one would even know. But he couldn't let it slide. He couldn't give in to this kind of lawlessness. Not today. Not ever. "I don't think I have anything for you, officer," Michael said firmly, his voice steady now. "And I'll be damned if I give you anything." Thompson's smirk faltered, replaced by irritation and a flicker of disbelief. The officer leaned in closer, his jaw tightening. "You don't know who you're talking to, do you?" he growled. "I could have you arrested for resisting. You'd never see the light of day again." Michael's heart pounded in his chest, but his resolve only strengthened. He wasn't going to be intimidated. He wasn't just going to take it. The world had seen enough injustice, and he had a role to play in stopping it, no matter the cost. He locked eyes with Thompson, not backing down an inch. Just as Thompson reached for his radio, a sharp voice cut through the tension, slicing through the air with unexpected authority. "Is there a problem here, officer?" Michael turned, startled. A woman approached, tall and confident, her movements deliberate. She was in her late 30s, dressed in a sharp business outfit that spoke of power and precision. Her deep brown skin contrasted with her striking, sharp features, and her presence commanded attention. Thompson's hand faltered on his radio, his face draining of color. The change in his demeanor was instant. What had been a calm, assured man moments ago now looked like a deer caught in headlights. Michael couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope as he realized the balance of power was shifting. The woman walked up to Michael's car with an air of unshakable confidence. Her steps were measured, purposeful. As she reached the driver's side, her piercing gaze landed on Officer Thompson. Without missing a beat, she addressed him directly. "You're the one causing trouble?" Her voice was calm, but there was an undeniable coldness to it, like the quiet before a storm. Thompson blinked, clearly startled by her sudden appearance. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice laced with confusion. The woman didn't flinch. She didn't need to. "Who am I?" she repeated, her voice sharp as a knife. "I'm someone who knows exactly what you're up to." Her words hung in the air, heavy with authority. "Do you know who I am?" Thompson, clearly rattled, stammered, trying to regain control. I'm not sure. She didn't give him the chance to finish. "I'm Detective Officer Laura Wilson, FBI." With a fluid motion, she flashed her badge, the metal gleaming in the dying light of the evening. There was no mistaking the weight behind the identification, no chance to dismiss her as just another bystander. Michael's breath caught in his throat. He didn't know who she was, but something in her eyes told him she wasn't bluffing. This woman was serious. She was more than just an authority figure. She was a force, and she wasn't about to back down. Thompson's face, once full of smugness and bravado, drained of color. The crimson hue of embarrassment crept up his neck as he realized the gravity of the situation. All the cocky swagger he'd carried moments before evaporated, replaced by a palpable sense of dread. He was exposed. Laura Wilson didn't give him the satisfaction of a pause. Her eyes locked on him, and she delivered the next blow with icy precision. "You're not even a real cop," she said, her tone now dripping with disdain. "You're an imposter, using a uniform to extort money from unsuspecting people. You're about to regret that." Michael couldn't help but feel a surge of relief, though he knew better than to relax just yet. Thompson's fate was sealed, but the consequences of this encounter were still unfolding. The realization hit Thompson like a ton of bricks. His body stiffened, and for a brief moment, he seemed lost. He reached for his radio again, but Laura was quicker, slamming her hand down on his wrist. "No more games. You're under arrest for impersonating a police officer and attempting to extort money," she declared, pulling out handcuffs. Michael watched in stunned silence as Laura swiftly cuffed the man, reading him his rights. For a moment, he almost couldn't believe it. What had started as an overwhelming feeling of injustice had turned into a rush of satisfaction. Thompson was led away in shame, his attempt at bullying someone far more powerful than he realized collapsing in front of him. As he was escorted to the squad car, Michael let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "Thank you," he said to Laura, who was already turning to leave. "You're welcome," she replied, her expression softening just slightly. "It's all in a day's work." As Michael drove away, he felt a sense of relief wash over him. The corrupt officer had been stopped, but more importantly, he had witnessed the strength of the justice system in action. It was a small victory, but one that made him believe that sometimes justice really could prevail.